So welcome everyone to the intro gathering for Deepening Connection. I'm Hilary and this is Will here.
Hello, everybody.
And we're glad you could join us tonight for this hour of journeying into this practice a little bit and sharing uh, what we have to offer and what this course will be like for the 5 weeks in which we're offering it. And more people will likely be joining us through this. And so we want you to feel comfortable. So take care of yourself. You can, get up and move around if that serves you. Come on or off the video as well as you feel comfortable. And just so you know, we are recording. And if you're really uncomfortable with that, let me know and I can actually take you out of the recording. I am going to post this recording, but I will not post the questions, just so people know. And if you would not like me to post any visual of you, I can cut this part out as well. So you can put that in the chat, or you can actually email me as well if you're uncomfortable with that, just so that I know. And I'll put my email in the chat now, but I'll put it in later as well. And you may see my cats, they come in and out sometimes. So welcome. We're going to share a little bit more about where we're coming from, but I want us to get more grounded into our bodies and into the place where we are, and to acknowledge the land and the ancestors of the land as well. So I invite you to close your eyes, and if that feels comfortable for you, and to feel into yourself and your connection to the land. So I invite you to take a deep breath in, filling your lungs, and exhaling, allowing yourself to relax as much as you have access to in this moment. Feeling into your connection to the seat that you are on, feeling the bones of your sits bones connected to the seat, as well as your feet connected to the floor, and breathing through those points of connection, through the bones, breathing into the bones, receiving yourself on that in-breath and all of your experience, and breathing out through the bones and into the floor and into the earth beneath you. I invite you to continue this breath of breathing through the bones, which we will do a bit more throughout our gathering as well. And as you breathe through the bones and into the earth, releasing whatever you are ready to release, I invite you to honor the indigenous first peoples of the land where you are. And if you know their names, you can honor them in your heart or even saying them aloud. For me here, and for Will usually, although he's in Florida right now, so it's the Seminole people and the Taino where he is. And for me, it's the Anishinaabe and the Odawa band, as well as the Potawatomi and Ojibwe. Honoring in gratitude that these peoples have created and are creating culture through their relationship to the land. And that this land has been taken away from them at times, and maybe even completely. And that we can learn from them and we can honor them and their relationship to the land, their culture, as well as the land as a being that is alive and that we are learning from, and honoring that we are creating our own relationship with the land and our own culture in relationship with the land as well. So honoring all that you are feeling and noticing with your breath, with your touch, with any movement, our even sounding, and of course with your awareness as we return slowly back to the group to be with each other. Mm, thank you. And we will do more of that grounding earthing in our somatic practice a little bit later on in our gathering. And I want to open up now to talk a little bit more about the course itself. And I'll share a little bit, and Will will share. Um, I'm so grateful that Will Michael is here and that he's been on this journey with me now for, well, quite a while, about 5 months or so. And he lives usually in Petoskey, Michigan, as well, where I am. And we've become closer friends by doing this work. And he's an amazing Soma breath educator and facilitator, and has done many, many other things in his long, rich life, and is growing into being a facilitator in this way. And he can share a little bit more about that with you. And I'll share for me that I'm bringing a number of different modalities together, and I feel like it's important to honor those lineages, which include my own Tibetan Buddhist lineage, as well as Theravada Buddhism and somatic body practice, which is from body mind centering, and many other practices that but those are my most used and main practices that are informing how this is coming together. And I will also say that I've learned a lot from Indigenous people, and specifically, I'm working with a woman named Grandmother Strong Oak, who facilitates, and we facilitate together, a walking in balance restorative justice practice that has given me a lot of tools that I bring into this as well. Although it's not a restorative justice space, we do some sharing and circle. So that is a part of it, and a lot of the wisdom that is now coming through is from the curriculum there as well. And also, of course, connecting with the land and everywhere that I've been. And I've traveled around the world. I've been very, very blessed to do that and to learn from many places. Um, and of course, from Lake Michigan and the land here as well. So you'll see videos, and those all come from very close to my home here, which is really, this land has inspired this practice in a huge way, and is why I'm doing this. So we are in this time of the pandemic, and there is a lot of isolation that we are experiencing. And I felt like I needed connection. And I can imagine that many of you have felt that way. And I moved here in October, and it was a struggle for me to figure out how to experience the kind of connection that I wanted to experience. And so I really started with myself and with the land. And this curriculum, while I had had it in the past, I hadn't brought it into relationship here or with a specific place for the intention of doing this kind of work. And so it was a perfect opportunity, and Will jumped right in with me. So this is really about us honoring our relationship to ourselves and the land, and our family and our community and the collective, and just going out and out and out, and being able to honor those relationships in a way that can help us to grow, and to grow within the relationships, as well as to grow as we want to in our lives, and even build more relationships with people that we might be surprised that we are connecting with as well. So part of my work is doing social justice work, specifically racial justice work, and that is inspiring me to do this because I was getting a bit burnt out doing that work, and I needed to come more deeply in and resource myself. And so this has been a way to do that, and yet it is this total limnoscape of going back and forth, and this serving that work, and that work serving me to go deeper in. And so I will bring that in throughout the course. All this is not focused on social justice specifically, but that is why I do this in a big way. Let's see. Also, this is to help us navigate, of course, our feelings and the complexity of our lives and the big processes that might be coming up for us as we change, as the world changes, and to have a scaffolding so that we can experience more aliveness and engagement with all of life, so that we have tools for resilience in our continued awakening process. So I'm going to pass it over to Will, and I'm also curious to hear, Will, if you want to share a little bit about how this practice has been supporting you over the last few months too.
Okay. Um, well, there's a multitude of ways that the practice has supported me, and um, partially because I mean it's basically comes into line with the work I've been doing for quite a long time, and that just basically self-awareness and becoming more and more conscious of. Um, I guess I want to say it as a real generalization, conscious of the things that are in the way of me being the loving, kind, compassionate person that I strive to be. And part of that has to do with like getting more in touch with my body and more in touch with my senses and my feelings and uh, and in a very real way. And I've never worked directly with the elements. I mean, I've been aware of the elements and I've done a lot of shamanic work and things like that, but the embodiment of the elements is very new to me. Um, and the breath work is something I've been doing for years, but it too has taken on a whole new light, and pairing it with the specific focus on each of the five elements and really breaking down our experience and our relationship to the elements has, and in addition to the breath work, has done to me what I call um, learning learning who I am from the inside out. I mean, it feels like I'm now experiencing things on a deeper level, on a more physical level, and it's really hard. There's no real linear way to describe it. It just shows up in many, many ways in my life. I know that I'm more sensitive, more intuitive, more conscious of boundaries, um, more in a very real way, self-responsible and self-loving, which all of that adds to my ability to function and to communicate in a much more sincere, authentic way. Um, and so it's hard to, I guess it's hard to think of the language that everyone would understand, because I feel like what I'm realizing is a lot of what I'm realizing has to do with the fact that I've had certain goals and certain aspirations around my work. And so I have that measure in terms of being able to gauge how much this work that we're doing together, Hilary, has changed me. And so uh, it's all, I feel like in many ways, what you'll get out of this course is going to be relative to what you're striving for, what you're aware of, what focuses you are, uh, what your goals are, and what your growing, what your growing consciousness will tell you about all that. Um, so one of the things I wanted to talk about going in at this point in our process is to talk a little bit about breath work, if that's appropriate. Um, because I think it's important to understand from my point of view where I'm coming from with the breath work. Um, I don't know how many, could you, like with a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with breath work, like a formal style of breath work? Okay, looks like a majority of people. Okay, good. Um, because while I've been doing breath work for a little over 50 years, if you count the years that I've worked with yoga and pranayama, um, I've learned so much in the last year because I've been able to have the time and the ability to deep dive into so many new techniques. And one of the things I've learned is that breath work is so efficient. If you latch on to one, you often stick with that one because it works for you. The truth is, every one of them has another aspect or benefit to it, and That's what I've learned in the last year and a half. And I now look at breath work as energy work. I think of the breath in terms of with the work with the elements, is the breath is basically working with two of the elements, air and ether. I think of the breath as the activator and the kind of the integrator and the energizer and the releaser. It's the charger, it's the discharger of energy, it's the balancer of energy. And so um, there's so many ways that we'll be working with breath, but I just want people to understand that when we're talking about breath, I'll be trying to define for you what the particular practice we're doing is going to do for you and what its intentions are. And as an overall statement, each of the modules that we do with each of the elements, I will have kind of designed or kind of put together a process that I feel is specific to an intention that has to do with becoming more aware of and integrating that element into our lives. So that's one thing to be aware of, and also be conscious of when we're doing breath work. We're also doing um, what I consider to be consuming a very viable form of nutrition, nourishment that our whole body mind system thrives on, and in particular our subtle energy bodies, and that gets into energy work and into the chakras and things like that. Um, but I think that's an important aspect and a part of it I want you to be aware of when we do the processes that we do. I guess that's pretty much all I have to say at this point.
All right, well, thank you, Will.
Yeah.
I've learned so much from you about breath work, even though I've studied yoga for a long time. There's a simplicity and a way that you've put the pieces together that just really allow for, I mean, I guess a deepening, which is the intention of this course. So I've been really grateful for that, and it's added a lot to my experience of the somatic work, where we really activate the body and bring that aliveness in with the breath, which is it's a pretty great combination because we're both learning together.
Right, right,
Yeah, and I do want to add that I went through a big shift myself in my relationships by doing this course, which was not, I mean, of course, I had an intention for growth there. I didn't expect to have a 180 in about a month and a half doing this course. So I'm not saying that's necessarily going to happen for anyone that joins, and just to say that it can. And there's been a whole amount of intimacy and vulnerability and presence and just clearing down some really big walls that have been inside of me from connecting on some of those levels that I've wanted to in relationship. So you never know what might happen, and I was quite surprised as that was unfolding week to week with the elements, and the elements were literally guiding me in that process. Um, so to share a little bit more, I am going to show you a PowerPoint. It's not necessarily the best way to give some of this information, but it's, I think, the easiest. And um, since we can't do all of the practices today, I'm just going to show you a bit of what we're going to work with. And then we'll get into the embodiment practice itself. Let's see. Okay. So, of course, this is the Deepening Connection course. Nourishing our wholeness is really the theme, and it begins next Sunday and runs through April 11th, 7 to 9 p.m. And so this is more of the curriculum of the course itself, the next couple slides. And I'm not going to read all of it because you can read it on my website, and I've been actually making some infographics that put these pictures along with the elements and can give you a taste of how I'm bridging the body with the earth or with the natural elements that we experience in nature. And and you can see some of that here too, like the root bridge there, that is similar in some ways to the connective tissues in our bodies as the ligaments that connect bone to bone. And then the heart and the vessels in our body are so similar to, of course, the rivers that run through the land. And the mycelium is like our nervous system, and the lungs are like the trees and the plants. And so we actually work with that in an embodied way. And I guide us through these imagery as embodied expressions. And we also get to ether, which is a little less physical, although, of course, we are in form. So we work with the form and more of the cerebral spinal fluid and with the glands as well. So, glands and the endocrine system is a big piece of what we're working with here and how that correlates with the chakra system as well, and actually giving a physical form to those chakras. And there's, of course, infinite research and information, although a lot of that is still very new scientifically. And many things are unknown, of course, and we're really going into that unknown place, yet working with the physicality of our bodies and what we can access and accessing more and more, ideally, in the time that feels good to us with the level of presence and awareness and capacity that we have. And so, we're doing this in a trauma informed way, and we really encourage everyone to take good care of yourself and work with the amount of information that you have resource to really work with as well. And both Will and I are here as resource throughout this time if anything comes up that feels like, wow, that was a lot as well. And then also, these are the practices and the lessons that we are working with. So each week, there's a different lesson that goes with the element, and then practices that are a bit more specific about how we work with those lessons. And so we start with security and discovering our needs with Earth, and then when we work with the simplicity and structure and nourishment from our bones and the roots and the marrow, and then we go into safety and cultivating trust. And I'm not going to read all of it, but it is a progressive process that we're building on. And so each week we don't just do water, we actually will do earth and water. And so by the time we get to ether, we're doing earth, water, fire, air, and ether together. And it is a full integration of all the elements. So we're building on these resources and tools to be able to access and work with the the medicine that we have in our bodies, and so that we can access those in all of our life and in circumstances where we really need it as well. And I didn't put this in here, but we also working with modes of connection. And so those have to do with uh, touch, which is associated with earth. Water is sound. Fire is movement. Air is breath, of course. And ether is consciousness or awareness. And so they all, of course, relate to all of the elements, and we are emphasizing one of them each time. And we do encourage using all of them for all of the elements as well as ways to access our expression, our truth, and our ability to be in connection and relationship with ourselves and others. And so we have some guidelines because this is a trauma informed space, and these are very simple. And of course, it spells out respect, which can sometimes be like, well, what does respect really mean? So here we're asking people to take responsibility for what you feel and say without blaming others, and taking care of yourself and being in inquiry about your needs. and using empathetic listening with yourself and others, being sensitive to differences in communication and cultural styles, to ponder what you hear and feel before you speak from the heart, to examine your own assumptions and perceptions, to keep confidentiality, and to tolerate ambiguity in that there's really no right or wrong, and this practice is really about an exploration and a journey together. So, as I said, it's an opportunity to be with the not knowing and to honor your own limits as well. And of course, you can always ask us questions in the chat and reach out to us. And then each week, the flow will be somewhat similar to what we're doing here today. So there'll be a welcome, which will have those videos. So you'll have an infusion of the elements visually and auditorily. And then there'll be a grounding and then a brief check in, and then an intro about the session. Then we'll go into the somatic guidance and then the breath work. Then we do a dyad authentic embodiment and sharing practice that's in breakout groups. So it'd be two people together who are sharing with each other, and you can choose to continue to do movement for about 4 minutes and to just be in your own exploration while you're being witnessed by another. Or you can share verbally if you would like that whole time, but you'll each have about 6 minutes to either move and or share together. And then that will come into a group sharing collectively, and then I'll give a little information about a personal practice with nature and encouraging that. And then we invite people to post about that in Facebook throughout the week. And we'll have a Facebook group. And then I have a closing song each time that associates with the element. And we'll look at this a little bit more later, but you can take this in if you'd like. There is a deadline at March 12th, and these are the scale of investment and the links, but I am going to get us into the practice so that we have enough time, and then we can go back to that slide later. All right, so if you have questions, hold on to them. We will get to them. We just want to focus on the actual embodiment practice for now. So for this, we do invite you to have a space where you can lie down, and that can be on a bed, it can be on the floor, on a mat, whatever feels comfortable for you. And if you don't have that now, that's fine. Sitting is fine as well, especially with earth, because it's a little more simple, you might say. And the breath work you can do like lying down or sitting up as well. It's really up to you. So you can turn your video off if that feels more comfortable for you, or turn the video away from you, and we'll get into the practice. So I invite you to lie down and get comfortable. And I invite you to close your eyes if that feels supportive for you, and to rest into your body and into your bones. And we're going to begin by breathing in and out through the bones as we did in the beginning. Breathing in, receiving your experience as much as possible. And breathing out through the bones, resting into the floor and into the yourself over to being held and supported. And I invite you to bring any touch to your bones that feels good, maybe on your hips or on your ribs, or even touching your hands. Good support too. Finding a place where you can feel that stability and structure holding you as you hold yourself, and the earth is holding us all. Continuing to breathe in and out through those bones and points of connection as well to the floor. And if you want to bring some toning or sounding in to bring some vibration and resonance, that can help to feel the density of the bones, to feel how held you are. And I invite in any movement that supports you to feel this structure, allowing your body to show you what would be supportive. And even breathing down into the rocks and the layers of the sediment in the earth that are like the bones of the earth. Releasing whatever you're ready to release. And then I invite us to explore the places between the bones, the joints that are connected by our ligaments and wrapped with fascia and other connection and connective tissues. So bringing in maybe some stretching or bending, breathing breath into the joints, allowing your body to show you what would feel really great and really nourishing for you. Especially in those tight places, bringing in breath and touch and even sounding. And also growing those roots, especially from your pelvis, down into the earth, into the land where you are, cultivating this connection with that land, and going deeper and deeper with each exhale as you bridge in to the layers of the earth and taking in the nourishment through your in-breath and going further and further down till you get to the core of the earth and you reach the magma, this molten rock that is churning with the potential for new life. And I invite you to bridge this core of the earth with the core of your bones, with the marrow, curiosity about a new story that is emerging, just like those new, fresh blood cells. What is that new story for you? I invite you to feel it, to see it, to hear it, to know it, and to breathe and move it from the center of your bones into the rest of your body. To find that emergence with movement, with breath, with your awareness, with touch, even sound, with this new story of new life that you are bringing in. And that you are expressing. Just as the magma emerges from the center of the earth, creating the new earth, how are you emerging from your core, from these stories of your ancestors? To live the fullness of your story in each moment. With all that you are. Continuing to honor how the story wants to be moved as this new earth of you. If there are gestures or positions that help you to feel that story and to grow it. And I invite you to stay there and we will have Will sharing the breath work in just a moment.
Okay. I invite you to continue to process and to experience and to be aware of the imagery and the sensations and the awareness of your body and the metaphors between your body and the earth that Hilary has already awakened in you as you do these following breathing practices. And we're going to begin by doing a series of 3 full balloon breaths. Now, a balloon breath is simply a breath that fills, the intention is to inhale into the full inner bodily cavity, expanding the lungs deep into the pelvic bowl, rounding out the belly. And as you inhale, continue on up, expanding the upper lungs and all the way up into the collarbones and upper back. And just inflate the entire body cavity with the lungs. And literally stretch into and push into the physical body from the inside out. And then just hold the breath for 3 seconds, feeling and experiencing that energy, the nourishment being absorbed by the body, all the way down, not only into the tissue and bones, but even into the DNA of your entire genome. And then just let it all go by just letting go through the mouth. And then we're going to do a series, 2 more of those full, expansive, inflative inhales, filling the entire body cavity, creating a lot of space around the heart, opening, expanding into the body from the inside out. And when you're ready, just exhale through the mouth, let it all go, letting go not only the air and any of the waste gases that you're releasing, but also letting go of anything that doesn't serve you any longer as you move into the new story. And this time when you inhale this third balloon breath, inhale that what you're breathing life into as part of your new story. Filling the lungs and sending the energy and intentions of that new story deep into the tissue, the bone, and the DNA of your genetic structure, your future programs. And then when you exhale, take a moment or two to just let your breathing become normal again. 2 or 3 breaths. And then we're going to start a series of what we call a coherent breath pattern. And this breath pattern is simply breathing in for 5 seconds through the nose and then out through the mouth for 5 seconds. Let's begin now. And I'll count in 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5, in 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5, and just keep that pace going. Monitor it for yourself. Basic intention is to make the inhale the same length as the exhale, recognizing that as you do this coherent breath pattern, you're literally creating a state of coherence between your brain, your heart, and your microbiome. You're bringing about a harmonic coherence that allows a vibrational connection between these 3 centers of consciousness. Keep that pattern going. Continue to feel, imagine, and experience the inhale and exhale feeding the bones, the tissue, the connective tissue. Feeling the exhales releasing and relaxing and discharging any stress that might be needing to be released. And then we're going to begin a series of connected circular breaths. And these connected circular breaths will basically be very up-tempo. They'll be about a count of 2 in and 2 out. So begin now with a count in, 2, out, 2, in, 2, out, 2, in, 2, out, 2. Full as you can on a 2-second inhale and fully releasing as much as you can on a 2-second exhale. In, 2, out, 2. Noticing any sensations in the body, any feelings, any discomfort, any emotions. As you do this circular connected breath, if you feel any discomfort, consider as you inhale that you're inhaling through the area where you feel that discomfort or that emotion. And as you exhale, release the charge of that emotion or discomfort. Keep that pattern going. Feeling the changes in the body, sensations. You may feel tingling or vibrations as you do so. And then on the next inhale, I would like you to inhale fully in, then exhale fully out. And just pause the breath and experience your experience. Feel the sensations, feel the energy, the charge of energy. It may feel like a very tingling sensations. It may feel like many bubbles of energy just sort of moving around within your body mind system. Notice where that energy is, where it's concentrated. If you wish to direct that energy to a particular part of your body, to an area of discomfort or emotion, feel free to do that by just focusing on that area and feel that sensation. Otherwise, just allow yourself to enjoy the moment. Experience the experience. Whenever you feel you need to take a nice inhale and begin to breathe normally, please do so. And for the last minute or so of this process, I'd like you to just focus on slowing the breath down. Slowing the inhale down to where it almost is silent, where you can't hear the breath, it's so slow, as well as a slow, silent exhale. Just allow this next minute or so to just be a peaceful, quiet time. And now I'd like you, invite you to take a nice full breath and bring your awareness back into your body. And when you're ready, you can stretch into your fingers and toes, wiggle your fingers and toes, move that connective tissue, come back into your physical body. And gradually, whenever you're ready, you can roll to your side and begin to move very slowly and cautiously back to your computers if you're not at your computer.
Thank you, Will. That was great. Was that your phone at the end?
That was my timer.
Oh, it was your timer. Okay.
Yeah,
I was like a little, I was like, whoa.
I know. I forgot that it actually rang. I thought it just stopped.
No worries. Yeah, it brought me back for sure. I didn't want to come back. All right. So we don't have much time left. Um, and if you have to go, that is completely understandable. I am going to share screen to show you that last slide um, and go over a little bit more of the kind of practical information of joining the course. Let's see here. So the deadline to register is next Friday, which helps me to know whether or not it is running. Um, and we'll have at least 5 people, and it could be up to 12 people. And it will be starting Sunday, the 14th, as I said before, 7 to 9 p.m. every week until April 11th. And there are different options for the investment. And so 166 if you're underemployed, um, and this is a stretch for you. 222 if you're able to save and that feels comfortable. And then 288, which is the abundant rate, if you're able to support others. I am offering some scholarships, so that helps to balance the cost for others who aren't able to pay as much, either in the receiving rate or even um, scholarships for those who aren't able to afford even that. So I really want to make this accessible. So if you really want to join and you don't have the resources to pay 166, please reach out to me, let me know, and we can work something out. And these are the links down here to register, and I will also put those in the chat for you um, once we stop the share. And if people have any questions about any of it, actually at all, feel free to come off of mute and um, yeah, and ask.